Now, previously, we learned how to allow the user to set variables using the input and the raw input functions. These are really handy, but I think they make more sense if you want to ask the user for something in the middle of the execution of the program. Something similar to what the social engineering toolkit does. But I think for a simple program like this one, it would make more sense if we can get our user to input the values as arguments. So what I mean by arguments is it'll be cool if we can allow the user to do something like Python macchanger.py and then give me the values by doing interface, set it to len 0, and then do mac and give me the new mac. Now, if we actually want to implement something like this, it's not going to be easy because first of all, we need to implement some way of reading all of this, everything that comes after the command. We also need to be able to read the option names or the arguments here. And we need to read the option values, which is len 0 and the new mac. And we also need to display a help message for the person when they don't give arguments or when they ask for help. For example, with all of the known commands, if you just do ifconfig help, you'll get a long menu showing the help and how to use all of the arguments that come with the ifconfig command. So you can do this. It's possible that you can write all of this yourself, or you can just use an already made module by Python. And that's what we're going to do. So in order to use a module, just like subprocess, we need to import that module. So to do that, we're going to do import module name, which is optparse. So optparse is the name of the module that allows us to get arguments from the user and parse them and use them within our code. Now, importing the module doesn't mean that your program is going to automatically use it. As you can see, it's actually written in gray right now and it's telling us that it's unused because we never use this module with our code. So when you import something, you tell Python that I'm going to use some code that exists within this module, but you actually have to call it within your code to use it, similar to the subprocess when we called it in here. So the next step now is to call this module and get our program to recognize user input and parse it. To do this, we're going to create a parser object. So you can think of this object as an entity or a person that knows everything about parsing and arguments and can handle all of that itself. So it's a person or an entity that we're going to use in our program that'll handle user input for us. So to create this object or this entity, we're going to say parser equals optparse, which is the name of the module that we just imported, and we want to create an option parser. Now parser here is just another variable, so it's similar to interface and new mac. The difference is the value that it holds is different than the value that's held in here. So for example, interface here gets whatever value that is returned by the raw input, and the raw input returns whatever the person enters. And the person enters a sequence of characters for the name of the interface, so the interface usually holds a value of a string, a sequence of characters. Parser, on the other hand, is going to hold the value of whatever optparse.optionParser returns. Now notice the name here starts with a capital letter. This is a naming convention in Python, and basically everything that starts with a capital letter means that it is a class. And what a class is, it's basically code, or you can think of it as rules or a blueprint for the object. So it determines what we can do with the parser object. It's basically all the code that can read the user input, like I said in here. When you do interface, for example, it's all the code that displays the help message. It's all the code that stores the values that the user enters. All of it is stored in the option parser class. But you can't use the class as is, you need to create an instance of that class. And that's what we're doing here. We're creating an entity or an object, and that object is stored in the parser variable. Now again, we're going to be using objects a lot throughout the course, and as we use them, it will become clearer. So right now we created an instance of the option parser class, which is an object that can handle parsing for us. Now you can think of this parser object as a child. So it has all the abilities that it inherits from its father, which is the class, to handle parsing. But since it's a child, we still need to tell it what kind of arguments to look for and how to handle them. So we're going to start teaching this child by doing parser dot add option. And basically what we're doing now is we're giving it the first argument that it can expect from users. So this argument is going to be -i to specify the interface. We're also going to say the user can either give you -i or they can give you --interface to specify the interface. Then we're going to say dest equals interface. And what we mean by dest is this is the name where the value of the interface is going to be stored. So this is how we're going to be retrieving the user input. Again, let's keep doing this and it's going to become clearer once we actually get it done. Finally, we're going to give it the help message to display to the user if they require help. And we're going to set that to interface to change its MAC address. Okay, so it's very, very simple so far. So all we're doing is we're teaching this parser object or child. We're telling it that I want you to allow the user to enter a value. That value they can enter it under the -i or --interface argument. Whatever value they enter, I want you to store it under interface. And if the user requires help, then display this help message to explain what this argument is. Finally, we're going to tell this child to parse the arguments that it gets from the user. So to do that, we're going to say parser dot. And as you can see, when you actually press the dot, PyCharm will automatically show you all the methods that you can invoke on this object or this child. So what we wanted to do is we just wanted to learn or understand what it got so far. So we wanted to parse arguments. Now let's go down to our program, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to do Python macchanger.py and I'm just going to do --help. Okay, so this is perfect. Now because we're using opt_parse and because we created the option parser here, you can see that our program automatically displays a help message when we do --help. You can see that this message is giving us the usage, so it's saying we can use this program by doing macchanger.py followed by the options. And the options are you can either do -h or --help to see this help message, or you can do this option. And this option is the first option that we created in here and added using the add option method. So you can see that it's telling us to use this option. You can either use -i or --interface. So this is what we set in here. We set it to use either -i or --interface. You can also see the help message that we set in here is being displayed in here, telling the user that you can use this option to set the interface to change its MAC address. Now this is perfect, this is exactly what we wanted, and in the next lecture we'll learn how to add more options to this and how to use the values that the user input into our program.